Uranus is an outer planet, and the group was just discussing the feelings that we're feeling. And Uranus is highly electrical. So I have spoken about Uranus being at the first degree of Gemini, and Gemini is this duality, right? Gemini is associated with twins, about two different things, two sides of the coin, different experiences that diverge, and so forth. And so, Uranus being an outer planet, it is about big generational change happening. And what I had posted this week is that we have Neptune at the first degree, Uranus at the first degree, Pluto at the first degree, and Sedna, which is an outer planet, is traveling with Uranus at the first degree. So the group kind of was doing a check-in with how everyone's feeling. Uranus being highly electrical and extremely revolutionary energy at the first degree, but with another big outer planet, it feels very electrical. And what it can also feel like is that you can't really stay in this frequency very long and you start to feel drained. So, what Uranus is a revolutionary things that will happen, new experiences that you have never encountered before. And it's also because it's at the first degree of Gemini, I have said that this is like the bifurcation or the split where some people who are vibrating, again, because Uranus is vibrational, electrical energy, some people are vibrating one way and other people are vibrating the other way. And what I just heard from the group is that, and there are 11 people on this call, including myself, that there is a feeling of disconnect with some populations. So this is not something that we conspired to decide to say together. It is literally an experience of our environment now where some of us are vibrating at a different wisdom content, of different experience content, a whole different outlook in reality. So if you followed my live this week, there was some controversy on my live. There were people on my live call who actually were there to discredit me and say that space is fake and that everything that I teach is, quote, BS. Well, this is how you can solve that. Instead of feeling reactive, Uranus can put you in a court situation, okay? Uranus is highly electrical, but it can also cause incidents and accidents when the two different vibratory levels or electrical spin rates are operating at different areas. So for the people who very seriously are invested in this being a cartoon reality and that everything that I teach is fake and BS, that is because that is true for them. So really, let's really nail this, okay? For the people who would call anyone a conspiracy theorist or a disinformation or BS or a shill or whatever that is, for them, that is true. That is true. For me, I am moving towards the active side of infinity. I am saying to the universe that I am not defeated. I am not giving up. I am moving up and outward and onward with the cosmic infrastructure. For other people, they're done with the cosmic infrastructure. It's all just TV, reality TV show for them. And for some of us, we're looking deeper into the mystery. We're more curious. We want to find out more. And Gemini will do both sides. So Gemini can do, malevolent intellectualism. where you just discredit everyone else and everybody else's teaching. That is fine with Gemini. Then there's another side of Gemini that wants to be curious. It wants to be social. It's like a butterfly. It's taking the nectar from everything that it can learn. And it has great discernment because it's very light with whatever it touches. So those are the two different ways that I see this happening. One side has no intellectual curiosity at all. And that side will just blank slate discredit anything that comes out of anyone's mouth who is still thinking, who is still studying, who is still creative and curious. It's very simple. So for the people out there in the public that you're meeting with and they have no content whatsoever, those are exactly the people who are discrediting me when I do my lives. I click on their site, look at their site, and their site has no content whatsoever. So I'm like, or some anime, bizarre stuff that is all AI created. That is called the bifurcation. So for the people who want to live in that frequency, it's all just reality TV that they're watching, and they don't have any discernment about their future. They don't have any idea about the future. On a personal level, people that I have known for my entire life who used to know that there was a cosmos and they used to know that they were part of a greater experience that was happening here, they have now said to me they've changed completely. That's called turning. They've turned, and they are now saying to me, this is their last life. You only have one life to live, and I'm going to eat my cheesecake and enjoy it because I only have this life and then it's over. And that is true for them. Because, as I said, those who have the flatline effect live in a flat screen TV reality. And there is nothing beyond this. This is just a flat screen TV reality, and they're not going to continue their journey. They have run out of consciousness, awareness, questions, curiosity, the ability to continue to grow. They don't want to learn anything else. They're exhausted. So that's what I see. And then I said this week that, there's this feeling of, for any of us that still have power, be very careful because we are going through an extinction event. This is an extinction event. With this particular timeline, this is the gray alien race. And I have put up all the data about that. Okay. We are on an extinction event. And when that starts to happen, you will also see like extreme psychosis. And what we are noticing is extreme psychosis, anger and rage because of the certain deletions that happen with there is deletions across the board in the coherence of their human qualities. So anger rather than compassion, like flat screen TV rather than curiosity about the cosmos and what could possibly be. The other thing about Uranus is it feels very unsettled, like we don't know what's coming next. Anyone that has a Gemini ascendant, you now have Uranus in the first house, and you will have Uranus in the first house for several years. So buckle up, because I'm going to tell you what Uranus feels like in the first house, because that's what I have. I was born with Uranus in the first house. With Uranus in the first house, you are going to continually feel like you have to break free, and you don't know what you're breaking free from. The rebel energy, the need to do something different, the need to like stretch out and get going, the need to get on a bus and get somewhere and you don't even know where you're going, leave it all behind and run for the hills. That is what Uranus in the first house feels like. So for everyone that has a Gemini ascendant, depending on what your ascendant degree is and what planets you have in Gemini, it's coming for you. Okay. And it's going to start feeling highly electrical, like you are literally going to jump out of your skin. Like there's no way to stay in your skin anymore. The other thing that will happen is anyone with a Sagittarius ascendant, the opposition to that is Uranus and Gemini. So Uranus has moved into your seventh house. For Sagittarius ascendant, Uranus in the seventh house is often open enemies and court appearances, because the seventh house is the other person. And Uranus brings this new electrically charged energy to the seventh house of arguments, incidents, accidents with other people. So you can often end up in court if Uranus is coming into your seventh house. I hate to have to say it, but Uranus is revolutionary change. And because it's at the first degree in Gemini, which is air sign, we see huge amounts of people jumping on new technologies, new ways of expressing themselves, like writing their memoir through some kind of AI platform. Whereas those of us that are taking Uranus in a different way, like I am, I'm diving into some shamanic studies that are extremely non-ordinary, revolutionary, and will create ingenious new change within me. So I don't feel like I need to jump on a spaceship called Atlas and get out of here. But isn't that interesting that there is allegedly some new sphere, some new planet that is forming in our solar system, just like the Anunnaki said, and some alleged ship that's coming? I think it's all really interesting. Yes, and also if you look at your progressed chart or even your solar return chart and you have a Gemini ascendant, that is huge electrical impulses, like you're going to jump out of your skin. And some people will go fairly nuts with Uranus and get in their car and start driving and not know where they're going. They'll get rid of all their stuff, put it all in plastic bags, take it to the thrift store, and then start driving and end up in a Walmart parking lot sleeping at night. So yes, so Uranus is highly electrical. Get up and go, get up and go, let's go. We don't know where we're going. Now, to ride this wave, okay, so some people are not going to go to Walmart. You'll drive up straight up to the top of Cardigan and just sleep up there in a tent. Like whatever. Uranus's energy is highly charged, and it makes you feel like you got to peel your skin off. You can't even stay in your body anymore. The other thing that happened on 9/9, which was like 5 days ago, so September 9th of 2025, the magnetosphere dropped completely for 6 hours. So I checked this morning. Everyone can check, the magnetosphere of our Earth. The magnetosphere dropped completely on Earth. Now, because the magnetosphere is like the consciousness, the soul, the energy body of the Earth, when it drops completely, you can also drop completely, like down to your knees, like absolutely drop. So a lot of self-care is needed. And I am telling you, this is the time. Like, this is the time to do self-care, to do retreats, wild yourself, be in the water, be in the mountains, be in the forest. Claude and I climbed up to the top of Cardigan yesterday and just sat on the top of the mountain, watching all of the white mountains and the clouds roll across. That is the kind of self-care that we need. Being around technology when Uranus is at the first degree of Gemini is absolutely the worst thing for you, because you're getting fried. I'll tell you why. I'm going to read it to you right now with Uranus. So Uranus rules the nervous system, and it is highly magnetic. So it rules the nervous system in your body, kind of like Mercury is a little bit like the nervous system in the way that it works your fingers and so forth. Well, what Uranus is originally, it was in relationship to Gaia, was a negative ionic charge. So she is like the earthy feminine, negative ions. Uranus, which I told you last week, spins the other way. It's basically upside down and backwards and spinning the other way. So you can imagine this spear is spinning this way, and the other spear is spinning the other way. And what does that do? It creates an electrical charge. So when Uranus, which is a positive magnetic charge, is interacting like this with the Earth, and the Earth's magnetosphere drops completely, like it did just on the 9th, you will start to feel that affect your heart. Your heart might start to race. You might start to feel like you're going to have a heart attack. And that is where huge amounts of self-care is needed. So we're going around this big galaxy, right? And we're going through the Oort cloud right now. The Oort cloud is highly charged particles. And so the highly charged particles are from the last time that our star did a huge coronal mass ejection. So those highly charged particles are informing all the planets and our star that it's time to do that again. So you're going to start to see electrical devices no longer work. And Ashayana Dean said this very, very clearly, that we would see a pinkish orange object pull up right next to the Earth, and that would be a twin or another Earth that the bifurcation is going to happen through. And during that time, no electronics will work. So I think this is coming rather soon. So you can already see, like this morning, I was trying to do my dance, and my phone is in and out and in and out. And some of you even had calls with me this week where I had to sit outside to even get my phone to work so that I could speak to you. So everyone who works in electronics, prepare for your job to be gone soon, very soon. Because when the magnetosphere drops and a coronal mass ejection comes across, it's going to come all the way across to Pluto. So it's going to then pull back all the electrical charges from all of those planets. And what is it going to do? It's going to push Gaia. Okay. So what's happening right now? Yeah, the internet is not working at all, which is why I was very strict about only having 10 students. So there's 11 people on the call right now. And if I took 12, or if I took 15, or if I took 100, of which, 100 people wanted to do this course, we wouldn't be able to do it because we barely are even having internet anymore all over the world. I'm expecting all electrical systems to crash. And then, of course, anyone who is depending on their stupid bank account or whatever like that, it doesn't even matter if the CD, central bank, CBDC, central bank digital currencies are in effect, because no electronics are going to work. So remember, the most important thing right now is you grounding down into the earth and knowing how to be a real earth human. Okay. I've done a few lives to teach you about that. So what does Uranus want? Is it just this bad planet that's like electrical and hurting us? No. Uranus at that first degree of Gemini, where Alcyon, the star that the ancient souls of Tara are inside of Alcyon. All right, so this is like the souls that began Earth's journey are inside of Alcyon. I know people cannot understand how this is possible, but imagine that they have a soul consciousness inside of a star. Okay. We have Uranus at that degree. It's revolutionary freedom, overcoming old structures on a collective level. That's what Uranus wants, overcoming old structures on a collective level. So we have to change. We're changing, we're being changed. It's going to change. And it's a matter of how much self care can you do during this period. Imagine 13,000 years of you coming in and then going to the machine elves and then coming in and going to the machine elves and coming in and going to the machine elves. And then, here we are. We have a chance towards infinity. We're going to go through, we're going to experience a higher cosmic frequency, a revolutionary change. And some souls are just so depleted that they're flatlining. All right. And that's what the group told me before we started the call, is that some of us have a lot going on and a lot of content. And then you try and have a conversation with people that you can no longer stay in that vibration, that there's no conversation happening. So that is a bifurcation. It's just basically, we are going to go towards our collective freedom, and our nervous systems, our kundalini, our chakras are all being activated by this energy, but it's not easy. All right. It seems like very simple the way I'm saying it, but really the body is going through massive amounts of change right now. So when Uranus is prominent like that, like say it's coming into your first house, you will start to feel like a revolutionary, an anarchist, like I need to break free, I'm getting out of here. And that will be real, but no one can do it for you. All right. That's going to be up to you. I was born like that. So I'm always doing revolutionary. I'm very rebellious. I'm also fairly ingenious. And so that's my natural state. Everyone's going to have to get to that level. All right. Because now all of us are experiencing somewhere in your chart, one of these planets at the first degree, whether it's Pluto, Sedna, which is with Uranus, or Neptune, is affecting you. And that's massive amounts of change. So it is the soul striving for freedom and higher reality in other worlds. In the mythology of Uranus, Uranus is the son of Gaia and also her lover. So the idea is that Gaia did not necessarily give birth to these other planets. Not Mercury, not Venus, not Mars, not Jupiter, not Saturn. But in the mythology, Gaia is in a twin type of a state with Uranus. She gave birth to it, and Uranus is considered her lover. So she bore her son, who greened the earth, created the rain, the life forms, the restless sea. Uranus also allegedly created primordial monster humans and then banished them. So there's a big mythology about how Saturn castrates his father, Uranus, and Uranus becomes a sky god that then got separated from Earth. But if you can imagine, this is a really interesting mythology, that Uranus wasn't always there, that somehow these other 7 inner planets out to the 7th one, which is Saturn, severed the connection with Uranus. And that to me feels like some kind of galactic history that happened, that we had these other 7 wanderers come in and sever this experience that Uranus was having with Gaia. So Uranus continues to be the highly charged electrical planet that spins totally a different way than Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Isn't that interesting? I mean, what's going on? Why would that one be spinning a different way unless all of these other ones were inserted somehow? So you have to really be curious about how we got here. Where are we? What are these planets? I see these other planets as fallen angels, or what I call archons. So Uranus is beyond Saturn. Saturn is limiting. Remember from last week, structure, hard work, discipline, perseverance, the lord of your estate, the ability to say no, the ability to put up fences. And then Uranus, which is beyond that, is I'm breaking down everything. I'm getting out of here and I'm getting free. I am making huge electrical changes and I am going to go out into infinity beyond Saturn's limiting force. Okay. So that's the thing about Uranus. It's like instead of these inner planets that are all very like survival based, Uranus is going, we could be anything. It's infinite out there. Let's join the quantum indeterminate state so nobody can get a hold of us through these other limiting structures. So for me, Uranus is a good planet. It's not a personal planet, meaning it doesn't rule any of the signs, but wherever you have it in the chart, that's where your goal of freedom is. So say you have Uranus in the second house. Your goal of freedom is financial. It's in your self-worth. It's in your values and your resources. If you have Uranus transiting in your second house, because your second house happens to be Gemini right now, it will also be like that. Like you want to get free somehow through your resources and also your values and your self-worth. So big electrical changes. If it's in your third house, it's like you want to study, communicate, something very unusual, something ingenious, revolutionary. If it's in the fourth house, you want to break free of your home and family, your ancestry. If it's in your fifth house, you have very unusual children. So if you've had a session with me and I was like, oh, you have Uranus in the fifth house, you must have unique children. They're going to be a handful. They might be kind of peculiar. All right, that's Uranus in the fifth house and so forth. So Uranus in the sixth house could be like strange schedules, weird pets, or bizarre health issues that you might be having. Uranus in the seventh house is an argument because you're the first house. Uranus in the seventh house is like somebody's always hitting you with some kind of revolutionary break free thing that you might actually have to argue against. So that's Uranus in the seventh house. And that's also true when Uranus is transiting your seventh house and so forth around the chart. Say you have Uranus in the 10th house. You tend to be a revolutionary thinker, ingenious new ideas, and so forth like that. But because it's not a personal planet and it's not the ruler of like Capricorn or Gemini or anything like that, it's just about revolutionary impulses wherever it is. Now, when you combine Uranus with an asteroid or a planet, say you have Uranus conjunct Juno, that's a very unconventional, revolutionary way of being in relationships. So also if you have Uranus coming towards Juno, you might need a lot of new freedom in your relationship. So Uranus always has to do with breaking free, okay? There's one major transit that I want to speak about with Uranus, and it happens when you're 41, 42, 43, and even somewhat 44 years old. So there's an 84-year orbit on Uranus. So when you're halfway through that orbit, say you get to like 42 of the 84 years, that's a Uranus opposition Uranus. When you have Uranus opposition Uranus, you're going to break free from whatever baloney that you were restricted from when you were a child. So whatever was like your dream and it got squashed when you were a kiddo, know that when you're like 41, 42, 43, and to some extent even 44, you're going to break out of whatever that restriction was and you're going to go, nuts. So you can already start thinking about it. What is it going to be? And astrologers started to notice, like, what is it? Men tend to get a sports car. They tend to have an affair, and they tend to like get a Harley Davidson motorcycle that makes a lot of noise because they're like a little boy again and they want to fart on the highway with a big Harley and go, that tends to be the Uranus opposition Uranus for men. So they've really studied this, and there's books about the Uranus opposition Uranus. For women, it tends to be a kind of a different break free. Like they felt like they were overly domesticated and they want to get out there and be somebody and meet somebody and do something interesting. And geez, I mean, I'm just suffocating to death here. I want to do something new and different. So it depends on also what were you restricted from in your childhood. Like for me, when I was that age, I went back to rodeo, like, because when I was a kid, I loved rodeo. My dad was into rodeo. I had a great horse. I really loved riding. So I went back to riding horses and teaching riding and different things like that, summer camps for kids with riding. But I got really wild and free, like riding those horses gave me a lot of freedom. And as you know, Claude has Mars in Sagittarius, so it worked for him too. He really needed to get all of that revolutionary energy up out of his body. So that's Uranus. Now, what's interesting to me about Uranus is not only is it at Alcyon, this really important star in our cosmos that holds the souls of Tara, but it's traveling with Sedna. And I had shared Kelly Hunter's book this week about the solar system and where these planets are. So I'm going to show it to you right now of what I'm talking about. So Uranus is this one here on the gold line. That gold line right there is Uranus. That's Uranus. When we go to Sedna, Sedna is the outermost planet, way out here. This area here is called the Kuiper Belt, the Kuiper Belt planets. Beyond that is Sedna. In this highly charged particle field of all of these outer planets, what was observed in astrology is that these are kind of like the dimensions, okay? These are like the dimensions, all right? When you get beyond Uranus, you start to go into creator gods like Haumea. There are creator gods. Here's Haumea. There are creator gods out here. Here's Varda. And so these outer ones, I'm not going to go into all of them. You can buy Kelly Hunter, and Kelly Hunter's a friend of mine. She lives in Vermont, and we've done interviews together. So Kelly Hunter made an excellent coloring book with all the information in the back. Here's a picture of Kelly right here. So that's Kelly Hunter. And she made the solar system into the inner planets, what she calls the near solar system and the far solar system. The far solar system is even bigger than the near solar system. So what you have learned about so far is the near solar system. There is on the outer solar system, Orcus, Pluto, Ixion, Huya, Salacia, Prosmius, Varuna, Haumea, Quara, Altagira, Makemake, Varda, Eris, Sedna, and another one that is a long Iroquois word, Haudenosaunee word, that I can't pronounce. But those outer planets have over 250-year orbits. So they're very, very slow moving. What I wanted to speak to you about was the story of Sedna. Because just like an asteroid, like if you've had your asteroids done with me, and you know that there's a particular name asteroid that really has an effect on your Mars, or something like that, or your Saturn, right? So there's a name asteroid. It's very profound. So this is Uranus, highly electrical. Here's Earth. Okay, here's Earth in here. Then you've got this midway point of Uranus. And then out here is Sedna. So it's the midway point between these two, Uranus. Sedna and her story is that it's a goddess, a creator being, an Inuit goddess. Sedna is fleeing with her father in a canoe. And her father does not tell her that he's terrified of this boyfriend from a different tribe who is pursuing her. And all of a sudden, she gets thrown out of the canoe by her own father. And she reaches up and she's trying to hold on to the canoe and get up back into the canoe. And her father takes a knife and he severs her fingers. And she slips back down into the water. And she's amazed that her father would betray her and leave her drowning in the water. But then her fingers fall off into the water. I know this sounds like poetry and it doesn't make any sense to you, but listen to the story of mythology. Her fingers become the sea creatures. They become whales and walruses, seals and dolphins, and other sea creatures. And her tears fill up the ocean, and she creates a whole new reality after being severed from the other reality by a father figure. Put that story exactly like that, severed from one reality, making a different reality with the tears that you are crying and your severed fingers. Put that with Uranus, who creates massive electrical revolutionary change. So even though in the group, when we first got on, people were feeling very like there's no one to talk to, that they can't connect, like the people that they're trying to interact with don't have the capacity, like the multidimensional perspective on things. They just think it's a fake flat screen TV, watching a reality TV show. And we are moving towards infinity. We are moving, but it feels like we're being severed at the same time that we can no longer continue the stagnant condition of what's here. So Uranus is the revolutionary, like, we got to get up and get going. We can't do this anymore. This is an extinction timeline now. There is no way that these people are going to be able to continue to reproduce because they've changed themselves. They're altered. They have deletions now in their blueprint. So we have to get up and get out of here. So when I say this kind of stuff, I'm not fear mongering. You as an astrologist have to just read it, whether people like it or not. And that's going to get me a little bit into what I needed to speak about today with the profession of an astrologist. So last time I taught this class, I wrote it all out and I looked at it and I was like, whoa, we're way beyond this now. Okay. But the profession of the astrologist, as I've said, needs a lot of boundaries because you do have that ability to see towards infinity. You do have that ability for ingenious new revolutionary action. You can see the big picture and what's happening, even though I clearly said that the thousands of people who contact me using me as Google, still someone will apologize and say, I'm so sorry, Lalita, but can you approve of this book about angels and angel frequencies? Can you just approve this book for me? Every day, all day long, that will happen to you when you are an astrologer. and you don't even know who you're talking about. This person doesn't even know who you are. But it's that split minute, like, I want an answer now, even though you haven't read it. I want you to tell me the way. An astrologer does not live the life for someone else. Okay. Your job and your only job is, first of all, a energy exchange for the work that you're giving when someone's asking you these questions. First thing, energy exchange is what? Otherwise, you are going to be so depleted that you won't be able to get off the floor. Like, I wake up in the morning and I've got the fellow who was stalking me on the live video has changed his whole YouTube account, has 2 new YouTube accounts, and has like tagged me in a bunch of baloney. Okay. That will happen every day to you when you go public. So the thing that is happening now is that these people know, all right, they know there's an extinction level event. Like, imagine the lemurs going crazy. Lemurs have way overpopulated, and now there's an extinction event, and they're all trying to grab onto the lead lemur to try and stay alive somehow. So you, as an astrologer, if you even do any public work at this point, need to have massive boundaries. The astrologer does not live the life or fix anything for the other person. You point to them the energies, just like I just pointed the energy to you. I just showed you Uranus and Sedna at the 1st degree of Gemini. You tell them you have Uranus and Sedna at the 1st degree of Gemini in your 7th house. It looks like you are probably going to have issues in court. You are going to have some kind of surprising revolutionary event with some other person. So be prepared, know that that might happen. And then instead of them beating themselves up and draining all of their energy, they can be like, okay, I will boldly go forth and do what I need to do to set this whole issue straight. But you, as an astrologer, cannot do it for them. You cannot do it for them. And there will be, and there was this week, tons of people who want an emergency crisis counseling event. My recommendation to you is you do not do that. Because if you start offering emergency crisis counseling, it's never going to end. It is like you will be 911. Okay. And whenever you're not 911, this is what will happen. They'll say, if you don't give me a session right now, I'm going to a pawn shop to get a gun. Do you know I have been threatened like that? I want to actually make sure you're listening to me. I have been threatened again and again that if I don't give a session, that the client will commit suicide. Do you hear me? That's how crazy it is out there right now. That is that highly electrical, supercharged, holy crap, what is going on? Extinction level event. That's what's going on. You cannot fix people's chakras. And guess what? You also cannot remove their demons. They have to do it. This is what I found again and again when I was a shaman. And the reason that I stopped doing it is I would fix the whole thing. People would pay me $300 for that, for an hour session, because you have to journey. It's massive. Like, it is massive, and it takes the whole day. But you journey and you fix everything up, you remove everything, and then they're right down there talking to the same strange person at the Winn-Dixie, and their chakras are all mixed up the next week. That's why I will not be fixing your chakras. I will not be removing your entities. I will not be giving a crisis situation, because the moment you do that, where we are, folks, where we are right now, truly, honestly, is that people will say, oh, you could have helped me so much. I've been suicidal so many times and you wouldn't give me a session. I hear that all the time. It's amazing. And that tells me, really, that we have entered a level of dependency and psychosis that is out of control with the human population. And I know that sounds very depressing, but what I've got to say to you is onward and upward. Onward and upward. Keep going. Keep going. I know this is painful. Keep going. Keep going. Say to the universe, I'm going. I'm going. I'm still going. I'm not giving up. I'm still going. If I have no one to talk to and the only thing I have to talk to is a tree, I'm speaking to the tree. Okay. And this is where it's kind of like this. And as I said, we're in the great reset this time, not just like a little reset, with the orphan trains and the Cabbage Patch Kids and the weird black and white ads to like get your auction kid here at this World's Fair, come to this World's Fair event and buy a kid at the auction. I told you already, we have massive orphan population already, and I have been offered a child, but this is the great reset. Okay, so there is something going on that is bigger than has ever happened before. And on a galactic level, I'm thinking this is going to be like, imagine the whole galaxy watching Earth. Just imagine for a moment. Everyone's watching. Earth is at the core of a massive galactic crisis. Whether we make it through or not is really whether the whole of the galaxy is going to continue like it is. All right. So, talk about heroic journey with revolutionary new electrical energy coming in, where the sun does a big CME, the whole magnetosphere drops on the Earth for 6 hours, and yet we still get up and keep going. We are amazing. We are unbelievable. And meanwhile, the whole of it is going on, right? There's so many people dying from the TURBOCANCERs now, that everybody's family is in flux. My family is in flux. It's totally out of control what is going on right now. Now, add to that complete electrical grid failures coming soon. And that's why I made my video talking about cooking on a wood stove and having a wood stove and knowing how to collect wood. All right. Because that's coming, folks. All of these things are spinning. All of these are spinning, right? These are spin rates, making geometries. They also make sound frequencies. They're all spinning at the first degree, these outer planets. It is going to be massive. And the next eclipse, Orcus, is really prominent too. So we will work on Orcus next week. Now with Sedna, when that one is in the natal charts, because that is such a massive outer planet, unless it's conjunct something like my Saturn is conjunct Sedna. So that outer planet beyond the Kuiper belt does become personal to me. And I was severed from my father. And not only is Saturn conjunct my Sedna, but the exact name of my father, Richard, is there. So anyone who wants to argue with me that this is not all scripted, I have 10,000 charts to show you that it is. It is absolutely 100% scripted experience. Within that, it's your choice of how you want to do that. Do you want to live in a victim mentality of Richard conjunct Saturn conjunct Sedna, where I was severed from my own father? Or do I go onward and upward? Keep going and don't look back. All right, keep going. That's how I choose to do it. So it's going to be for each of you, your choice. Do you want to keep going? You feel like you're being severed. You feel maybe like you're drowning or whatever, but keep going, because it might be that you're actually creating a whole new reality. Haumea is also at the first degree. So that's how Maya is childbirth, giving birth. She's at the first degree of Scorpio, actually. So for people who have Scorpio and Scorpio ascendants, you're giving birth to something too. That's how Maya, we've got a whole bunch of outer planets at first degree, folks. It's monumental. It's massive change, and it's not going to go back ever again to what it was. So go forward, keep going. And you don't know where you're going. Neither do I. I have no idea. No idea. You just go one step. When we climbed Cardigan yesterday, I was like, if we're going to make it to the top of this mountain, one step, next step, next step, next step. Keep going, keep going, keep going. All right. And then you get up there and you go, maybe we have to live here. Maybe we can never go back. And then maybe you have to go back down, and you go back down, and you do that very carefully. But it's that way of movement, revolutionary energy. And it's so electrical for me that I can't sleep. It's like I'm not sleeping very much. And you might feel like that too. So that is some of the beginning of the introduction to outer planets. Sedna is going to be prominent in your chart for those type of severing events. So you can tell just from my chart that I have Saturn and Sedna and the name of the asteroid Richard there, very exact with the transits to that of when my father actually died and exited. But that created a whole new experience for me too, because then I really recognized that my shamanic skills were like, he didn't die. I could still see him. I was still dreaming him in a very lucid way every night. So it seems like a death, but a death is a beginning. It's just moving through. Get ready to move through. Now I'm going to keep going because I have a lot of outer planets to discuss with you and to tell you what they mean. So Neptune is just beyond. So here we have Uranus in the gold. Neptune is beyond that. This green line is Neptune. Okay. And then the centaurs, which I will talk about in our last session at the end of the month, do this big, long elliptical. So Nessus, Chiron, Chariklo, all making a big elliptical, whereas these just tend to rotate. Okay, this is a geocentric model around like this. Uranus is spinning opposite to the rest of the spin. Neptune is beyond Uranus. So once you break free with Uranus, revolutionary new insight. Neptune is now you can fantasize with your imagination and create whole new mystical realities. That's Neptune. Neptune is beyond Uranus's revolutionary impulse. It is imagination at its finest. What is my dream? It's also associated with escape. Like, we got to get out of here. I got to do something different because it's beyond that revolutionary rebel energy. It starts to fantasize and imagine and make something up. And then it pulls down the currents of the greater cosmos. So I sometimes, when you look at the symbol of Neptune, it is like an antenna. All right. It looks like a trishul with hooks on top, a three-pointed spear. Neptune, I call the cosmic antenna. So it's an outer planet of 165 years. So we just jumped from Saturn at 28 and 29, Uranus is 84, and then we get to Neptune 165. So that also is going to tell you how long does it stay in each sign. Neptune stays much longer than even Uranus. Uranus is like 7 or 8 years in a sign. And in the keywords for astrology book, it will give you like the generational. If you look on page 98, you will see, when Uranus was in Aries, when Uranus was in Taurus, and now Uranus is in Gemini. And it gives you a lot of the dates too for when this stuff was happening and when it entered and when it will be there again. So Neptune now, this fantasy, imagination, escapism, let's do something new, is at the first degree of Aries. So Neptune is having brand new cardinal fire. What can it be? What can it be? What's it going to be? And nobody knows. One group is going towards the AI route. Like they're going towards that metaverse, right? They're going to be AI gray alien cyborg beings. They consider that their great escape. The others of us with Neptune at the first degree of Aries are going the other way. We are fully responsible. We are fully ingenious. We are fully capable of creating all new realities. So we are going towards that way of, I can do it. I know how to create a brand new reality and be fully responsible for it. Now, Neptune was in Pisces, and it will go back to Pisces for a while. It was in Pisces for a long time. When it was in Pisces, we also had two very divergent views. So when it was in Pisces, that's where the New Age 5D problem started, because the escapism to 5D, and there are tons of people still on that escapism to 5D thing, that was promoted because Pisces is like this mystical new age movement. So Neptune was there for a very long time, and it was quite painful for many of us who were like, holy crap, look at that. So let me get the exact Neptune dates there. Neptune in Pisces started, guess what, in 2011 and 2012. That's exactly when the whole false new age thing started, was like, oh, we're going to be 5D. We can all just eat cookies and it'll be so nice because we don't have to work anymore. And we live in rainbow unicorn universes with cookies. All right. The real thing with Neptune in Aries is you will get up and go first. You will get up and you will work hard and do it first. So Neptune in Aries is not what people think it is. Now that it's moved into Aries, a lot of people just want to disassociate and die. So I've heard people with Aries ascendant, when Neptune came in, they were crying and sobbing because their version of reality was also very intoxicating, but none of it was true. It was like spiritual cocaine, unfortunately. So now Neptune in Aries is kicking some people's butts. And for others of us, we're going, yeah, I can totally be responsible. I can get up and do the work first. I can make zucchini bread first thing in the morning. I know how to do this. I'm going to be absolutely capable of creating a whole new reality. So Neptune is like the archetype of the mystic. So in modern astrology, they very much associated it with Pisces. And that is an issue of dissolving into this mystical thing so much that you don't even realize the rest of the baloney that's going on. So a lot of baloney was going on when everybody thought that they were going to be 5D. So if you have Neptune, say, at the ascendant, you can be very mystical, very like cosmic antenna. I'm getting downloads, something's coming through, and so forth, depending on what sign it's in, right? If it's in Scorpio, then it's a little bit darker, a little bit more taboo. So you have to know what sign your Neptune was in. If you have Neptune at the midheaven in Sagittarius, you have very high ideals. Like your midheaven is the honors, awards, and merits. And you're like the cosmic antenna for the Sagittarian, like super truthful, highest university level possibilities of ideals. So that's how Neptune works. Whereas if Neptune's on your descendant, you might have real illusions with partners. you might think you can fix or change that partner, but in fact, you probably can't. But you can brainstorm some good ideas with a partner. So that's Neptune there. Whereas Neptune in the fourth house or on the IC is like mystical, almost like possible illusions around your home and family, or coming from a very mystical, mysterious lineage that is truly like people that were capable as sorcerers or something in your ancestry. And then if you have Neptune in other locations, like again, Neptune conjunct Juno could be mystical things having to do with the sacred marriage bed and sex magic and things like that. Again, depending on what sign, I would say in Scorpio would be more so. So that's how that works. Neptune resembles a dissolving principle. It dissolves realities. So again, with Neptune at the first degree of Aries, we get up first and we dissolve the old reality to create a new reality. And it can feel very unsettling, like you're on the ocean and the wave is going like this. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if I can get back to shore. I think this wave is taking me way out. Oh my gosh, we're all the way into the center of the Gulf Stream now. Oh my gosh, we're going all the way to Mexico. And that's how Neptune can feel too. It can feel like, okay, I got up first and I got going, but now I'm seasick and I don't know where I am. Oh my gosh, Neptune. Holy crap. Now I'm getting a headache and the world is spinning and I'm seeing bizarre auras coming off. That's Neptune too. So Neptune is spiritual aspirations of a medium, but it also can be a problem area of you don't want to deal with reality, so you just eat gummies all day. You just eat gummies all day and you think that you're doing something, but you're just like eating gummies all day. So Claude's laughing at that. I don't eat gummies all day, by the way. But so it's that kind of escapism. It can be a problem too. I've seen also transiting Neptunes, where a transit of Neptune somewhere, someone might become an alcoholic for a while. They're trying to escape, or they might join some bizarre cult like John of God or something like that. And then they find out John of God is in the back room impregnating teenagers and selling the babies. Okay. So that's Neptune. It can go either way, right? It can be very positive, highest possible like mystical awareness, or it can be like cult indoctrination, eating gummies all day and pretending John of God is actually healing someone. So you can also have strong visionary abilities, excellent intuition, emotional images. All of that is Neptune's domain. And know that it's a generational thing. So I was born with Neptune in Scorpio, which was the 60s. And what happened in the 60s? Just look at the 60s with Neptune. Neptune in Scorpio in the 60s was free love. So, maybe that is very mystical, making love with whomever, or just having sex randomly out there on the communes, on the farm, and so forth. But it was also LSD. A lot of people were taking acid. So it's a generational thing like that too. And then whereas when Neptune got into Sagittarius, people started doing Eastern religions. Remember, like yoga, Ramana Maharshi, all kinds of Eastern religions and Eastern meditation practitioners and so forth started coming around. That was Neptune and Sagittarius. And then in 2012, we had Neptune go into Pisces, and that began the whole New Age and the channelers. And I can't think of all those strange channelers from like Sedona area and stuff. And they were talking about hybrid children. That was Neptune in Pisces. Now Neptune's in Aries. I honestly couldn't imagine anything weirder, because Neptune is this water floating around, mystical experience. And Aries is like Claude marching through the house. Go, 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 get things done. And Neptune's like, oh, I think I'm in a dream. I don't know where I am. I don't know how to march. My feet aren't touching the ground anymore. And that started Claude's one of their that's how it's starting to be now, folks. All right. So that's Neptune, Sedna, and Uranus. Now we're going to look at it in a chart. This one's coming up. This is our new moon eclipse. And I might have to prop it up for you a little bit and look at it here. So as I said, Haumea is also at the 1st degree. Sedna and Uranus are at the 1st degree. Neptune, by the eclipse next week, will actually be retrograde back to 048. So it's at the 1st degree now, but by next week it'll go back. And Pluto is at the 1st degree. So all of that is at the 1st degree. Now, you, as a new astrologer, can imagine that outer planets, Haumea, Sedna, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all at the 1st degree, is going to mean some unbelievable new, brand new change that can never go back to what it was, is happening now. So we have a big change happening and people feel it. I would say this is the change of the ages also, because Pluto, which we will talk about next week, is at the 1st degree of Aquarius with the asteroid DNA. And you don't have to believe me, but I've already told you my father's name, Richard, is conjunct my Saturn and Sedna. And so it is very precise. When I say DNA is there, I'm not messing around. And we will also talk about Orcus, because next week we're going to talk about Orcus being at the very top of this water trine kite coming. Orcus is to me like moving beyond Pluto's hell realm into infinity. And we will also look at Carlos Castaneda's chart next week, because Carlos Castaneda was a real person. He was an anthropologist born in Peru in 1925. And I did look him up. And even if all of his studies of shamanism with this so-called Don Juan was a fictional, like, conglomeration of his own teachings and his own learnings in anthropology, doesn't matter to me, because there are outer planets that really indicate that Carlos Castaneda was exactly what he says he was in all of those books. So that's a way to use astrology and know, Carlos Castaneda had Orcus conjunct the moon. He was absolutely going towards infinity. And I believe that was his last book, written in 1998. So we're going to stop now, because really that's all there is about outer planets. You use them with their mythology. You use them in what degree mark. Are they conjunct a fixed star, like Uranus is at Alcyon? Is that fixed star of significance some way in the greater movements of the cosmic machinery? That's how you use the outer planets. In modern astrology, they try to assign these outer planets to the signs, but it doesn't work, because you've got like 20 others of them that they have now discovered. And allegedly there's another one in the solar system forming right now. And they're potentially always forming, because we are the creator beings. We are. And things happen with us that require more knowledge of the cosmos. That's why the outer planets are very much creator God planets. And I believe those are the dimensions. Okay. So when you get out there to those outer planets, like Neptune, or even like Sedna, you start to get into, have you lived the law of Saturn? Are you completely a responsible person? Or does Neptune become like you eat gummies all day and live in a fantasy land? Or does Neptune mean you get up and get doing something for the brand new reality coming? Okay. So that's some info. And I also just wanted to show you, uh, I didn't know, but people don't realize that a gourd is how you make a rattle. So I'm going to just show everybody again, because I've showed this a bunch of times, but I just want to show you again, folks. This is a rattle. Okay, see, it was a gourd. It had a stem, which is now its nose. This was a gourd. And people again today were like, oh my gosh, you're going to make rattles out of gourds? Now, to me, that seems so obvious, but to me, this is basically the split in humanity. This is the split in humanity. Like that people can see stuff on TV, but they don't know where that thing came from. That to me is a very concerning split in reality. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that or ask questions about these outer planets or ask me about them in your chart. Yeah, I know. It's pretty scary that people do not know even how to grow a gourd or that there are seeds inside of a gourd. The other really fascinating thing is that in the Florida property, Claude was growing loofah sponges, the things that you scrub yourself. A loofah sponge is a squash, folks, and people don't know that. So we'll be bringing those to the retreat too, if they're still available, and some rodent hasn't eaten them or whatever. But this is the bifurcation. And in terms of Uranus with Sedna, some people are going one way and some people are going the other way. And the group really very sober in our discussion today, really sober, that you go out there in public and there's no conversation that you can have because it's getting scary. It is scary. But as Carlos Castaneda says with Don Juan in the very end of the Dreaming book, he says fear is the most important thing you can have because fear indicates that you still are holding on to your soul, and like a warrior with warrior vigilance, you are going to hold on to your energy body. You are going to hold on to your soul. You are going to hold on to that movement towards infinity. And Don Juan is like, fear is your best friend. So if you feel a little bit like this is an unsettling time, you know what? That means to me, you're still alive. You are still alive. You still have some level of like knowing and feeling and growing through this change that is happening right now. So fear is your friend, folks. Fear is something that you need, because if you knew what is going on out there, you would be like, holy crap. I personally am dealing every day with people who are dying and desperate. The rest of y'all can just watch TV and then negate my existence and call me BS. All right. So it's a really terrifying thing out there to try and have a conversation with people who are just like, there's nothing there. There's no content behind. There's nothing going on with the soul. They've flatlined already. And I'm willing to say that, because as an astrologer, if you try and make it nice or saccharine for someone, they're going to come back at you. You got to have massive amounts of authority to say what you need to say as an astrologer, and massive amounts of boundaries. You got to know what you're talking about. Really, this is pretty intense time. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Could I explain Neptune through the houses? Absolutely. So in the back of this, all right, this book, there is a really fun section of the outer planets through the houses. So it's kind of like Uranus. So Neptune, for instance, in the eighth house. And I'm going to look at their keywords, but then I'm going to drop this because they actually have the wrong idea about the eighth house. This book still thinks the eighth house is about sexuality. It is not. The eighth house is about the opposite to the second house, the gate of Hades. What page in that book, Mary Ellen? You should go to for that. The 12th house is on page 198. So if you go to a 12th house Neptune, they're calling the 12th house Neptune the transcendent individual who responds to voices and images from the unconscious invisible powers. Okay, that's what they're saying of Neptune in the 12th house. But remember, they have their houses a little bit saccharine and modern compared to Demetra's houses. So really follow the volume 2 of Demetra George, Ancient Astrology for what the houses mean. So for me, having Neptune in the 12th house would be like, you're hearing voices, you're always hearing the collective unconscious, but they may be demonic. They may be, because Demetra says the 12th house is the house of demons, the house of self-undoing, the house of imprisonment. So with this book, it's saying Neptune in the 12th house is like the transcendent individual. But to me, that might be someone who's absolutely lost and hearing voices in their head like a schizophrenic. All right. That to me would be transcendent. They're not really grasping the solidity of the situation because they have Neptune in the 12th house. And then it's going to depend on what planet is there, right? So if it's Neptune and Mars, that's going to be an energy of like, they think they're fighting demons and, maybe they are. I'm not saying they're not. And they're like tuning into mantids and the mantids are informing them of their reality. That's that 12th house stuff. It's kind of a dark, behind the shoulder. You're not sure. Neptune is making it really weird for you. Whereas then now let's go to Neptune in the first house. When I have seen a lot of Neptune in the first house, people can get in intoxicating ideas about themselves, egocentric, intoxicating ideals about themselves, or they're kind of like borderline personality. They don't even know themselves. They don't know what they are. Or I've also seen Neptune in the first house where cult people, they just join one cult after the next. Neptune is a tough planet, really. Neptune in the first house can be also like a massive alcoholic, like nonstop drugs. But that's also true of any of the angles. I've seen Neptune at the midheaven with heroin addicts and homeless people. Neptune is a tough planet. Don't think it's great. All right. Neptune in the second house is like you make money, your self-worth, your values have to do with that transcendent, almost like imaginary realms. So I just have to use my chart because I don't know how else to do this, but I have Neptune in the second house with Astro Wizard, okay? So, and Intercosmos, I believe. So Astro Wizard and Intercosmos. So the second house is how you make money. So if you have Neptune there, depending on what asteroids are with it, you're going to make money through some kind of like downloading information, like Neptunian bringing it in. And then the asteroids will tell you what you're bringing in. Neptune in the third house would be like studying maybe like strange things that are off the radar for the rest of the people, but you're a cosmic antenna and bringing in communications and study and weird stuff that nobody has ever considered. It also might be intoxicating illusions about your siblings because that's the third house. And then the fourth house would be like totally intoxicating, like strange ideas about what your home and family was, but also could be like spiritual mystics from that family. Fifth house would be like Neptune in the fifth house is like major illusions and fantasy about your children, but also could be very creative, like weird creative stuff coming out through you with Neptune in the fifth house. But it's not a personal planet, you see. So it really depends on what sign it's in that fifth house. And then the sixth house, it would be like strange, almost like I'm getting like tinnitus, like you'd have weird sounds and frequencies and things coming through on your daily activities, and that would affect your health, like strange cosmic antenna frequencies coming through. The seventh house would be illusions about partners or imagination with partners. The eighth house would be like otherworldly dreams and like way out experiences into the ethers and things that are not of this world. So the eighth house is also debt, like you might get yourself into debt, making contracts with otherworldly beings and so forth, downloading languages and weird stuff from other realms in the eighth house. And that one does not configure to the first house, so you wouldn't even know you were doing it. Neptune in the ninth house would be like a spiritual teacher, because the ninth house is higher learning, like big, interesting Neptunian, fantastical ideas and so forth. 10th house would be Neptune, like visionary, mystic at work, at job. 11th house Neptune would be you're out there in the community and you're the mystic of the entire community, and you might even be like a globally known mystic. And then we're back to the 12th house, where if you have Neptune in the 12th house and even transiting Neptune in the 12th house, you might have kind of a weird, you know, collective unconscious, but also demon world coming in. Let me just grab Carlos Castaneda's chart. Okay, that's very interesting. So if this is Carlos Castaneda's chart, and Carlos Castaneda was a real person who was born in 1925 in Peru, then Carlos Castaneda has Neptune in the seventh house. And I've only read 2 of his books. I don't know everything about Carlos Castaneda. So I will have to say, if he had Neptune in the seventh house, it would be like he and his imaginary friend or his partner or his other person that was like his most beloved was a weird, really weird out there person. Neptune in the seventh house. Now, I don't know if this is really Carlos Castaneda's chart. This is what I looked up. If this is the case, then he has an Aquarius ascendant, Neptune and Leo in the seventh house. That would indicate that his Don Juan was this other person, and in Leo as a spiritual authority who was like a bizarre cosmic antenna that he was interacting with. He was interacting with like a supernatural, weird, fantastical character. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure that Don Juan existed. I really don't know. There is evidence that the Yaqui tribe that he's talking about did not even have any shamans, and that Carlos Castaneda had. I read about a lot of shaman books like this, actually, like almost a magical being that would come in and like move it, like find him in a hotel or find him at a bus station, a totally weird magical being that would not tell Carlos Castaneda his true home or where he actually lived. That would be Neptune in the seventh house. His partnership was primarily with Carlos Castaneda, because Carlos Castaneda told him to get rid of all his other friends, because all his other friends were reflections of his lower ego identified personality. So it was on page 111 and page 106 where this so-called other person, this Neptunian other person told Carlos Castaneda, you better get rid of your friends because they are distractions and they're feeding your ego personality, and your personality is a total mask to what you really need to pursue, which is infinity. So there it is, Carlos Castaneda, Neptune in the seventh house, really strange, otherworldly person that he was in relationship with. Now, I wanted to see if I had another chart, just, for the heck of it. Let's see if I can figure out somebody else's chart and figure out. And any of you can tell me your Neptune and where your Neptune is and figure out what does Neptune mean there. And I will try and interpret right here. Okay. So with Claude, let's try and find his Neptune. Oh, that's interesting. Claude has Neptune in the third house in Scorpio. And I've already told you that Claude, with his early childhood, he could not study, he could not write his own papers. Things did not make logical sense to him, but he was very weirdly intuitive and could play celestial music. But Neptune in the third house, he couldn't study like linear, analytical, rational thought processes. He couldn't write a paper. Okay. Another member has Neptune in the fourth house. Yeah, that would be Neptune in the fourth house is like strange occurrences and almost fantasies and illusions around your childhood home. If it's on the IC in the fourth house or close to the IC, it also could be like otherworldly lineages. But remember, Neptune in fourth house is also the physical property. So if you lived your early childhood near like Montauk, Long Island, with all kinds of strange stuff going on, you're picking up a physical location, not just your home and family, but like a physical location of very high, strange stuff going on in the fourth house. Okay. So there's a couple more. Okay, yeah. So there's one. So the I'm not going to say names because I don't want to give away people's personal details, but the person that I just said that for in the fourth house said yes, that was exactly it. And then someone else has Neptune at 29th degree and 9th house. So that is like the ultimate mystic, like the last degree in the 9th house, major cosmic antenna, whether you like it or not. Radios are playing in your head, people are talking in your head, predictions, you know what someone's going to say before they even say it because you're a cosmic antenna at the very last degree of the 9th house. That is pretty like, whoa, yes. And I know who that is, and I would say that that is true for her. Here's one, Neptune in the fourth house, Capricorn conjunct Uranus. Looked at the asteroid Kalahari, but did not, looked it up, and it's a salt pan remnant of an ancient lake in South Africa. Wow, that's really interesting. So Neptune in the fourth house, again, some kind of weird land mass. It's not just your family, but a weird ancient land mass. And what we're hearing is that it's an ancient lake in South Africa. Yeah, so there might be like things that happened to you there. That land and that ancient lake might have been part of your original home because it is ancestry and origins. So Neptune there. Anybody else or any current events or any other questions that you want to ask me? Some people have already had to get off, and I do want to thank you all for your unbelievable perseverance. We're in the home stretch, folks. You've done an incredible job listening to these videos. You have all changed tremendously, but not only that, but my sessions with my other clients who are not on this call, oh my gosh, they are so much more educated. It is so easy for me to now have a conversation because they have that basic like structure and language where they can speak back to me. So, it's been incredible that you are all persevering doing this course. This is not easy. This is totally ninth house stuff. Anyways, Neptune transiting the 11th. So, a transiting Neptune would mean that you have Aries in the 11th house. So, transiting Neptune is like, now I've got to put out my cosmic antenna for a new community. I've got to find some new people because remember, Aries is cardinal fire. I've got to get up first. I got to get going. I got to find a new community to be part of. The 11th house is also like global friends and global patrons and connecting on an international level. With Neptune there, you don't want to join a cult, but you do want to meet some people who can help you on your spiritual journey in greater mysticism. So that's Neptune transiting the 11th house. Okay, yeah. So that is true for the person. They're putting a heart there, and it says that that is interesting and that this is the community experience that she is having. Yeah, these classes are very interesting for people. And it's for me, I want you to know it's a huge relief for me to get this information out and for you to all support me doing this because now you all know. I mean, I have now 10 more astrologers who can say, this is very scripted here, folks. So if you want to get into like a free will system, you have to know that this is a very scripted system environment. I don't know why, but to get beyond it, you've got to get out into those outer dimensions of those creator gods like Haumea and so forth, and start creating our own realities, different realities. Any other questions? And we can also have any, it doesn't have to be astrology, any question that you have. I don't even care if it's about gourd rattles, or we can go off the record now too and end the recording. What would people like to do? Okay. We'll end the recording. And I do want to thank everyone for listening to these videos, for making wonderful comments and contributions. Thank you also for the generosity of people who have sent me beautiful donations. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate so much everyone persevering while it's been quite difficult to get content out lately. And you all have just bravely soldiered on with this content. So thank you all so much for being with us.